Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of the Revive and Revive, Finding You in Lupus Virtual Symposium. I want to thank Dr. Thomas and Ms. Molly McCabe for their excellent presentations during part 1 of the seminar presented by More Than Lupus. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with my personal lupus story, I wanted to take a brief moment to give some history on me and my somewhat surprising journey. Now, I have been living with systemic lupus for almost 30 years. I was one of those unusual child cases because most people 30 years ago were women of childbearing age who were diagnosed. And as a child, I lived with a bleeding disorder, but things became increasingly more complicated when at the age of 11, I contracted Epstein-Barr virus, a virus which is now known to be one of the most common viruses attributed to the onset of lupus. By age 12, I had been hospitalized approximately half a dozen times with doctors believing I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, or what they now call JIA. I was wheelchair bound, I was severely weak, could not bathe myself, in excruciating pain, and the disease was spreading. Every day it felt like something new, and I was given every medication available to stop the avalanche of symptoms. Then a new layer of truth was discovered. Additional lab tests revealed that I had systemic lupus erythematosus, and more medications followed. I missed all of 6th grade, all of junior high, and my freshman, sophomore, and junior years of high school. I was only remotely healthy enough to attend my senior year of high school and even went to prom with a broken foot, I might add, due to steroid use. Now, over the almost 30 years of living with lupus, I have suffered from multiple organ involvement, blood issues, musculoskeletal complications, and I have been hospitalized dozens of times. My longest stay was actually for 5 months at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. I have been told that I'd spend my days in a wheelchair with a breathing tube. I have been told that I should not and could not have children. I have been told to prepare for organ failure. I have been told a lot of things throughout my lupus journey. But with my illness, I have crawled literally through the deepest, darkest valleys. But with my illness, I have also felt the triumphs of reaching what felt like impossible peaks. And I now have a beautiful 6-year-old son named Luca. Because of what I went through and what I have learned along the way and what I'm still learning, I feel charged with the responsibility of advocating for those in the lupus community. I want every person struggling with this illness to know that they are not alone, that your pain is real, and that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. However, it is not okay to stay there and let your lupus steal your joy and steal your life. Now, if you would have asked me 30 years ago, as an 11-year-old child in the hospital, pumped up on every medication, struggling to live, if I would one day be giving a speech on the hope of living a great life with lupus, I would have thought you were nuts. Truly. But life is funny, isn't it? It is full of surprises. And today you're going to hear me talk about what I have learned throughout my unique lupus journey. And my greatest hope is that through sharing my personal experience, though we all are unique creations with unique stories, that you maybe for the first time feel heard, feel seen, and feel loved. Because you are so much more than a sum of what is currently wrong with you. You are so much more than lupus. Now, I love a good acronym. I love words, I love a good acronym. And if you are newly diagnosed with lupus, I would imagine that your acronym for lupus would be something like this. L loss of identity and future. U, undeniable fatigue. P, pain and suffering. U, unfortunate medication side effects. And S, significant mental and physical anguish that never seems to end, right? Now, though there are no denying that those words associated with the complexity of the disease, it is important to remember that association and identification are two different concepts. Too often, we, lupus patients, can allow our disease to swallow us up whole. We let it not only take over the rudder of our life, but we let lupus be the ship. We let lupus be the wind. We let lupus be the North Star that directs us, motivates us, or doesn't motivate us, and keeps us from moving forward. We allow lupus to become our identity. And let me be clear, for someone newly diagnosed, it is a part of the natural and healthy grieving process to feel overwhelmed, to feel scared, to feel angry, to feel anxious. It is important to be patient with yourself and show yourself grace as you go through this process of accepting your diagnosis. It is okay to not be okay at first, but there is a time when you need to make the choice to change your outlook on your illness. A time when you need to redefine what lupus means to you. A time to revive. Now, have any of you watching had lupus for more than 2 years? If so, congratulations. You have survived what I like to call the terrible twos. I have said this multiple times, but in my opinion, the first 2 years of living with lupus are the hardest by far. You are dealing with abnormal test results, then the specialist, then more tests, then more specialists, then comes the diagnosis, not to mention the medication trial and error, not to mention the lupus symptoms themselves that keep popping up like unexpected guests at a party. What's this rash? Why do I have a fever? Now I can't go out in the sun? Why do I have sores in my nose and my mouth? What's with the migraines? Why can't I remember my name? And so on and so on. And now, after surviving the first few years, you start to discover who you are again and how your lupus fits into your life. And many people adapt. Many people adapt, and lupus gets woven into the tapestry of your life, and it doesn't feel like it's the whole quilt anymore. However, like the terrible photos of you from high school that suddenly you get tagged in on Facebook, your lupus sometimes can come back to haunt you, just like the photos, right? Maybe it's a flare or a new symptom that you never had before. And before you know it, your lupus has you stuck in a rut. It has you stuck in a rut. And once again, just like it was when you were first diagnosed, it becomes the North Star of your life, driving every moment of your day, dictating who you are, what you do, making you feel like all you are is your illness. I can speak from experience here because this has happened to me many times. I spent too many years letting lupus steal my joy, and I had to remind myself that my value wasn't dependent on my health or my accomplishments or my to-do lists or anything I have done or anything I will do in my future. I am of value simply because I am alive, and so are you. So are you. You are not of less value because you have lupus. So have you made lupus the North Star of your life? I feel like I'm talking right to you. If you're thinking to yourself, yes, I have, then what do? How do you revive your life with lupus? I know for myself, the first step to reviving my life was this. 1, I had to stop looking to the past, feeling sorry for myself, and thinking I was the only one in life suffering, because everyone has his or her lupus. Everyone has his or her lupus. Everyone is fighting a battle. We are all survivors in one form or another. When I take the attention off my own pain, it gave my lupus less power over my life. When I took the attention off my own pain, it gave my lupus less power over my life. Now, obviously, pain needs to be addressed medically. I'm not saying it doesn't. However, it doesn't have to become your job. You don't have to serve your pain. You don't have to bow down to it. You do not have to be a minion to the almighty lupus. 2. Second step in reviving your life is I had to remind myself when things came up with my lupus and it hit me like a ton of bricks and it knocked me off my game, it messed with my mind, messed with my heart, that I need to stop and control the controllables. Yes, I know that there are no guarantees in life, with lupus or without lupus. I know I cannot control whether I have lupus or not, right? Take that off of your mind. You can't control that. But I can control how I choose to respond to whatever comes up with my lupus. I can control that. I can control my attitude. Now write this down. You see it in the slide here. Lupus is not contagious, but a bad attitude is. Now, Abraham Lincoln, who I love and adore and quote often, once said, "I claim not to have controlled events, but confess plainly that events have controlled me." You make your choices and your choices make you. Understand that? Control the controllables. Let go of the things that you cannot change. Be intentional with your words. Be intentional with your actions. They can help you or they can hurt you in your lupus journey, and the choice is entirely yours. Entirely yours. It is. And 3, what is going to help you with your attitude in controlling the controllables? Living your best life with lupus. And how do you live your best life with lupus? You do that by setting goals for yourself, by finding a new passion, or by reviving an old passion. Let me give you an example of this. When I was first diagnosed, I was 11 years old. 11 years old. I was a young child. I was a very active child as well, and I loved to dance. I was a kid who lived at the dance studio. Then I got sick, and suddenly that was gone. That was taken from me. I went from the dance floor to the hospital floor, just like that. It was incredibly challenging, making that paradigm shift to finding new things that could take the place of my love of dance. But in order for me to stay sane, I had to. And I discovered dance in its purest form is art. And art in all of its forms, whether that's poetry, fine art, design, music, theater, brings me joy, big time, big time. So I moved forward, embracing what I could do and tried to not focus on my limitations. Because if you spend your time mourning what could have been and focusing solely on your limitations, you miss out on being mindful and experiencing life and the beauty of today. You do. You cannot grow where you are planted if you are relying on yesterday's sunshine. It's gone. It's gone. So, what are your goals right now? What are your passions? We all have them. Maybe you want to set tangible goals with your doctor. Maybe you want to go on a special trip with your family. Maybe you want to revive an old passion. Maybe you want to write a book or start writing and journaling. Maybe you want to volunteer more. Well, let me tell you, friends, today, good news. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. And I hate to remind you of this, but we all have a finite amount of days on this earth. And I implore you to not squander them and wait for when you are lupus free to start living. Don't give lupus the power to steal your joy, the essence of who you are. It doesn't deserve the right to do that. Don't hand over your life to lupus or to other people's opinions about your lupus and what you should and shouldn't be doing in your life. Take your life back. Take your life back. I implore you, and I promise you will feel revived if you do. Now, one of my personal heroines is Helen Keller. In fact, I love her so much that her words are the basis and inspiration of my organization, More Than Lupus. And she beautifully stated this: the marvelous richness of human experience would lose something of rewarding joy if there were no limitations to overcome. The hilltop hour would not be half so wonderful if there were no dark valleys to traverse. She also went on to state this: everything has its wonders, even darkness and silence. And I learn, whatever state I may be in, therein to be content. Finding contentment despite your temporary circumstances, despite your suffering, despite your lupus, is no easy undertaking. However, there is a stark reality here. And the reality is, through this diagnosis, you are either going to step up or you're going to stumble. And as Arthur Richard Rohr once stated, if you do not transform your pain, you will surely transmit it. Begrudging your illness and the season of suffering will only keep you stuck in the sand. However, learning to explore your current situation, to ponder it and use it to better yourself and help others will benefit you greatly. To quote Edgar Allan Poe, never to suffer would have been never to have been blessed. So, in conclusion, remember that acronym I read to you in the beginning? Well, I have a new one for you. Take a moment to consider this new acronym for lupus. L, love yourself because your value is not in your illness. U, understand setbacks are temporary. P, remember pain is inevitable, but suffering is not. U, uncover your meaning through this experience. And S, serve others by sharing your story. So whether you have had lupus for a few days or a few decades, today is the first day of the rest of your life, my friends. And if you are in a place where you are asking yourself, why me daily? How do you get to a place of peace? How do you learn, whatever state you may be in, as Helen Keller said, therein to be content? How do you accept your current reality when you're grieving your before lupus life and find fulfillment and even joy? You have to choose it, family. You have to choose it. And though this choice may seem difficult, you step out in faith, knowing that through your courage, you are being shaped. You are being transformed. You are making diamonds out of coal. And there will be something quite beautiful that will rise from the ashes if you allow it to. If you find yourself wondering, why me today? Stop, breathe, and whisper this, because there is no one else designed to learn from this experience at this perfect moment in time to show others that they can live their best life too. Thank you again for your time, and thank you again to everyone who watched part 1 with Dr. Thomas and Ms. Molly McCabe on Saturday. Look forward to sharing more virtual health symposiums with you right here on More Than Lupus. Bye-bye.